Greens MP Jamie Parker is a founding member of the Australian Coalition for Democracy in Burma. He's been an activist and campaigner supporting human rights and democracy in that country for over 20 years. He's visited Burma several times and will be in Rangoon next week to assess the results of the election. He joins me now. Jamie Parker, thank you for your time. The official results are still not expected for a week or so. Are we out of the woods here in terms of those results and the way they could be tampered with? We did see in 2010 suddenly a swag of advance votes swayed the result in favour of the military-backed party. Are you sure, convinced that won't happen this time?
Well, by all accounts, the National League for Democracy, led by Aung San Suu Kyi, will be victorious in the majority of the 45 seats in this by-election, and we're confident that the government that currently is in power in Burma, it's not in their interests to see Aung San Suu Kyi unseated, and our view is that the results will come through as expected.
How significant was the decision late last week to allow international observers to attend these elections, and how bad have the reports been in terms of polling irregularity and signs of intimidation? Despite the result that's being celebrated, we still seem to be seeing a few things that weren't quite right.
Well, we know that these elections do not meet international standards. The European Union, the United States, other countries around the world have recognised that all of the elements that are involved in a truly free and fair democratic election were not present during these elections, but it is indeed a big step forward. It's a step forward, even though this is a by-election. These 45 seats are important. The Parliament is 664 seats, and it's an important step towards a general election in 2015.
So how much can she exactly change, and how quickly do you think? Is there a concern that because of those huge levels of support for her that she would be viewed as something of a threat by the ruling party?
Well, that's absolutely right, and it's important now that Aung San Suu Kyi, the NLD, the international community act very carefully. The general election will be in 2015, and much like in 1990, when the National League for Democracy won over 80% of the seats, it looks like the National League will again be victorious in 2015. So the international community does need to be careful. They need to encourage the regime to move forward with these democratic advancements, but also make sure that the stick of sanctions is still there to make sure that there are no steps backward.
You heard what Bob Carr had to say about sanctions earlier. How long a process is that to look at lifting the sanctions? Because, of course, in terms of the Burmese people, it would be a step forward for them eventually if the international community feels that's justified.
Well, sanctions are a critical reason why we have political reform in Burma. It was clear that the Burmese regime needed to be less dependent on China, and the only way to get access to markets in the United States, in Europe and other countries was for political reform to lift sanctions. The Australian government under Foreign Minister Rudd did lift a range of sanctions in early 2012. They were targeted sanctions, financial and travel sanctions against individuals, over 500 individuals in Burma. That's been relieved somewhat, but not completely. We're calling on the federal government not to lift any more sanctions at this time, but wait for progress. The results of the elections should all be finalised within a week, and then over the coming months, as we see how the political process moves forward, that's when sanctions should be reassessed, because it's important to note that 166 of those seats in that parliament are reserved exclusively for the military. While this is a democratic step forward, it by no means meets international standards, and we need to carefully and methodically move forward with the regime to encourage democratisation.
Jamie Parker, Greens MP from New South Wales, appreciate your time with us on PM Agenda. Thanks for that. And that's all we have for this program. Make sure you join David Spears tonight for